evening and welcome to the Board of Education Queen Anne's County Budget Work Session, Wednesday, February 19th of 2020. Before we go into closed session, I would like to welcome Mr. Mark Anderson as our new board member. Congratulations and thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
I've been accosted many times, what the heck are you doing that for? I said, because it's important.
It is.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Captain Kelly?
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to the general provisions, Article 3-305 and 3-104, the Board of Education of Queen Anne's County. We are meeting in closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, going into closed session to perform an administrative function and to conduct matters that relate to negotiations.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions and comments on the motion? Hearing none, I call for the vote on the motion to go into closed session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. And we are back to our budget work session, Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. Just going over a few more notes. Mr. Pfister?
All right, so yep, just to open.
Thank you.
Absolutely quick recap on where we are. So everything has been presented. You have information on school requests as far as the operating budget. School requests, central office requests. You have the capital budget as well. We have pared down a few times, exec team, the operating budget, shaved about $1 million off of the beginning request that we presented initially. And so we are at a place where we need to make some decisions with regard to the board's comfort level with the proposals that we have shared to this point. We have no more meetings, work sessions before the scheduled March 4th proposed request from me. And we just want to get a little direction from you with regard to where we are, how comfortable you are with the requests that we made, what you would like to shave down if you have a particular dollar amount in mind, just where the board's thinking is, so we know where to start for tonight, because I think that you have everything. You did pose a couple of more questions, additional questions,
Yes.
Over the past week or so, and we made sure that we got all of those responses to you, and everybody has access to the running list of questions, budget questions. And so at this point, we'd just like to know, where are you? And that'll help us to decide where we're going to start tonight.
Okay. We'll start with Captain Kelly. Did you have a list of stuff that you would like to?
I've been holding this. I meant to ask you about it. When I went to the MABE conference, there's a company there called KPPC, which is ESMEC Health Trust.
Yes.
And they laid out to try to get people get into their company that in 2017, 2018, counties, the savings they had for dealing with the ESMEC Health Trust. And for Queen Anne's County, one year was $518,000, next year was $849,000.
So
what is that savings, and what have we done with it if we had it?
So it's really not a savings, it's a cost avoidance. So the fact that we've employed that company to do a lot of that consulting work behind the scenes, looking at the claims and prescription charges and things like that, it's reduced our increase. So it really isn't a savings, it's reduced the increase. So if our health insurance was going to go up 8%, because we employed them, now our increase may have only gone up 2%. So it's embedded within, from a factor of cost avoidance, not that we got this money back into our accounts and then we can do something with it. It just means we're paying less future going out.
So the next year we're paying less, because if we avoided that cost, we had budgeted for that amount, or had the ESMAC.
Yeah, I can get you a history of because I'm just the new trustee to the Health Alliance. I'm not sure exactly when they started working with the Health Alliance. It could be a year or two ago, and we've already experienced those savings, which are built into our base and then going forward.
Okay. So if you get the information at the end of the year that this is what you avoided.
Yeah, so we get constant renewal projections based on our experience, not only on the health insurance, but on the vision, the prescription, and all of that. And that's constant throughout the year. As we talked about, which in this budget, we're experiencing, even with those savings, an increase of 6% over our current rate. Had these savings not occurred and accumulated over the years, we could be looking at a 10 or a 15% increase year over year.
Okay.
Those things are just mitigating the year-over-year increase.
All right.
Just like when we changed the provider for retiree insurance for the Medicare. It was no longer Blue Cross Blue Shield. I mean, anybody that accepts Medicare, there was no loss of coverage. We just changed the person who's administering the plan. Again, those savings were a cost avoidance, which just reduced the amount that we would have to pay extra next year.
Have you gotten the increase for this year?
6% is what it's projected at right now.
But it hasn't given you a real cost yet, just telling you 6%.
Yes, well, based on their projection, 6%. So we have a few more months that we can go through. It may very well go up. It may stay stagnant. We have money in our health alliance as a rate stabilization fund, a couple $1 million that's just accumulated over years. Both us and the county government share that rate stabilization fund. So if the rates are beyond what our capabilities are from a budget standpoint, we have the ability to use that to kind of stabilize rates, and I believe that's been used in the past.
So how do we put money, do we have it budgeted in our budget for next year? Money for that rate stabilization?
No, it's basically, if you want to think of it, it's like a fund balance. So when we go through and we submit all of this money, as MEC, it pays the claims, because again, it's self-insured, so we only pay claims. We don't pay a premium like your car insurance. We only pay the claims. If we put in more money than what the claims paid out, then you have a little bit of fund balance. And as that
Stays there.
accumulates, and then the year when, hey, we're going to get a 10% increase, well, we can't afford that, then we pull that down to buy down that increase. And the
Okay.
county's in the same bucket
Okay.
as
with
we
us.
I'm
Okay.
very glad that we got on this topic first. The state of Connecticut lost its AAA bond rating because someone actually did a study of an unaccruing liability in retirees' health insurance. Retirees, because of the health insurance probably, are living longer and using more. And
Yes.
is this rate stabilization fund, that seems to me only to stabilize today or this year's costs that keep them from erratically jumping up and down.
Correct.
But off on the side is this growing liability.
Correct. OPEB.
And if that occurs, is that a special fund, or is that an increase across the board?
So it would be an increase. We'd have to request an increase in this, what we've been discussing, as far as an appropriation within the operating budget to go and move that into our existing OPEB trust. Right now, we only have about $500,000 in that OPEB trust, and our liability is well over $100 million. So for that $500,000 to increase, we have two options. We could certainly use a little bit of fund balance if we had left over, operating budget fund balance, or we could actually budget $50,000, $100,000 out of our operating fund to pay into that trust to kind of bring that liability down. But they are two separate.
The prudent thing to do is to begin funding that. The reality is there's
We're
other
trying.
things that are more important.
Correct.
Yes.
And God bless my former colleagues, but they have pressures, tax pressures, and if it hits the fan, it probably hit the fan after they're gone.
It's a
As-
huge unfunded
as-
liability.
Problem is
Same
going
thing
to
here.
be trying to even explain and sell that, when, as I understand it, the MOE is 1.5 million up, but the operating budget that I heard was 3.5 million over MOE.
Requesting.
Yeah, requested. And they're gonna,
2.5.
to come in and try to sell an additional fund is probably, I guess the issue becomes, should they be told?
Oh, they know.
You know,
They should be told in public hearing because this is something that's growing nationwide.
Yeah, we make that point when the board receives the annual update from our auditors through the financial statements. We do hone in
That's
on the OPEB liability.
Well, you know,
And then, of course, our statements are a component unit of the county, so they're very well aware of what our unfunded liability is. Because it could have an effect on their bond rating at some point. But the markets right now,
well, you
from what I
guys
understand,
a
are
part
ignoring
of
that.
the county budget, and we have 2 AAAs and 1 AA1, which is a step below from Moody's. That makes borrowing for capital projects cheaper. The capital budget's another issue.
Yes, sir. Which you were here last week when we went over the
I
capital.
went over that. I couldn't comment on it.
I know. Sorry about that. Captain Kelly, anything else on your list?
What is the primary talent development, that additional, what is that?
Sure, that's
Ten
for,
thousand.
Paid.
yep, it's for Gifted and Talented,
Oh, that's
our
right.
program, yep.
So what we're asking for, I'm asking, at what point are we asking for? We're asking for everything on this list.
So what's before you is a balanced sheet. So the revenue that we're asking for or receiving is up top, which is a 5.661689. And what's below is what we're spending, that 5.661689. If you cut something from below, then the
What they asked.
plug number, for lack of a better term, is the county above MOE number would go down. Or if you add something, that number would go up.
Has anyone in the administration met with somebody over at the county to try to explain the press of funds and then, here I am sitting here, a former county commissioner, hearing 4 different budgets and category transfers and so forth, and coming to a very strong realization that we don't have a lot of room.
We don't.
Would
No,
you
we
think we
don't.
were lying to you for 4
Right.
years?
Not at that process.
You could say that, but I have no comment on it.
I know you
We
don't,
aren't
sir.
we-
at the,
I know you don't. I know.
We're
And
not at that point yet in our process. Right now, we'll get there when.
Right, but we meet with the,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman and a couple of the commissioners, generally
Like a
it's
black
Mr. Moran, Todd Mon. They have an idea of where we are. And a couple of times throughout the year, we actually go
We
and
don't have
talk
to know
about
the-
the budget.
We don't have to know the details of these discussions, as long as I know they're taking place.
Oh,
that's-
they
that's
know.
good.
absolutely.
Mhm.
We just had one 2 weeks ago.
And we'll have a big discussion when we present the
We'll
budget.
present the budget.
We're kind of developing it right now.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Captain Kelly?
Yeah, the accountant position,
Yes, ma'am.
5,000, I'm uncomfortable with that. To go in for 5.6 million. I mean, we're clearly not gonna get 5.6 million. And I'm just wondering why that's so vital. We've gone a long time without it. I understand what you're saying, and I know it's a lot of work, but.
The reporting that's coming out of Kerwin is, from what I've seen so far, is, I'll use the term insurmountable for our existing staff. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or pray for anything, but that it's just, from what I've seen and all the reporting and everything that we're required to do, it's going to be an insurmountable task.
Is it possible?
And it may not
It
just
has it.
affect our department and finance, it probably will affect the testing office and the accountability areas as well.
They work hand in hand, as you know,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
Kerwin.
I mean, they haven't completely passed Kerwin yet.
That's true.
There's a lot of controversy about where all that money's gonna show up. And I don't know that we're gonna need to do all the reporting the very first year either. So.
Again, depending on how it works out, the first comparative report is for fiscal year '22. But they are looking at prior year. So if I don't set up my accounting system properly for '21, I can't compare apples to apples from the first report that's due in '22. That's one of the things that we'll be discussing at our CFO meeting next week. Again, some of these timeframes could certainly be pushed out, but it's just
Would be
a
useful
lot of reporting.
if using fictitious numbers, but just to get the principle of its effect over time. I'm obviously interested, But what sticks in my head is that the starting rate for salaries of teachers is $60,000 a year. And it increases, where we are now, it increases by some percentage until we get there. There's some rumor that the state is going to help for the first couple of years, but I haven't seen anything in writing about that.
Well, the state their plan is to increase, every district will get more money from the state. How much more for each district? There are projections that are out there. Ours is not so significant
Right.
In Queen Anne's County because we're a wealthier district. Some counties are getting significant increases.
Probably
in
think
their funding.
Baltimore City would get some, and
Absolutely.
Dorchester would get some,
Right,
counties that aren't filled with people like me.
But even like Caroline, they get a significant. There's poverty.
Somehow, some way, in a moment of lucidity, if somebody could show where we are, or where, let's put it this way, where we think we're going to be at the end of 2020, where you have to balance out
Bless you.
everything.
Thank you.
And then Kerwin takes its effect, and expected help from the state, which is completely dedicated to offsetting Kerwin costs.
We
Not
have that.
getting mixed up in this budget,
We-
and see how long it's going to take us to get to 60. However, it isn't just the starting pay, because everybody,
Correct.
otherwise you're going to have this ceiling, and then everybody's going to be making the same amount of money.
Yes.
I'm not so sure that that's going to be saleable. So there's
not-
a
it's
lot's going to have to move.
It hasn't been so far.
It
No.
affects teachers. However, we just talked about a group of psychologists. We just talked about a unit, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, I do have one more.
In open session, we don't talk about,
Nobody
Negotiate.
knows that we talk
Okay.
about that.
Um,
Well, now,
Get my brain, the total county commitment you have up there is 5,090,090. And then you say we are using none of our fund balance. I
Correct.
thought we were in that particular total.
Correct. So the reason it's a negative 234, because right now we're saying we're not going to use any of our fund balance like we've used the last 2 years. So since I used it as a revenue source last year, and I'm saying I'm not going to use it as a revenue source, apples to apples, that's a reduction of $234,000. If we want to use 234 or some other number,
We may need to later.
possible.
It's $5 million more.
anything else, Captain Kelly?
Those are the main things I had.
Is that all? Okay. Mrs. Morissette? You didn't have anything? Okay. I went back through the whole budget, ring binder, and I pulled about $250,000 out of increases. I don't know how popular I'm gonna be at the end of this.
Just tell us what page.
Okay, starting with page 1, the contracted services, the 25,000. Have we used up to that point of the 265 from 2020? I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. I should have asked in the questions.
We're in the budget book,
Page one.
administration.
Yes.
The
page one.
$25,000 increase,
Yes,
We've,
that's for your
It's been-
legal services.
that's for legal.
Yes, if you flip to page 3, page
Okay.
1 is a summary of what follows
Okay,
behind it.
thank you. All right, so that's the description. Yes, I need to take that out. Leave it at 70,000. These are just my recommendations, folks. It's there, page 3.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
Page 3. Legal was increased to 95,000 from 70,000. And we have a historical.
If I could just pull your attention, Ms. Harper, if I may,
Sure.
to look at your actuals for the prior 4 years.
Yes, I see that. And I see that you've sent
And our current-
all of us an email where we're at. You sent it to us yesterday. Sorry, I had it here and now it's gone.
Who do we use as our legal?
We employ a gentleman by the name of Darren Burns. And I can't remember his, Keebler and
Carnegie.
Carney,
Carney,
I'll tell you.
Callahan,
Carney, Callahan,
Resnick.
Bresler, Bennett, and Sure. Thank you very much. I had to say that whole word. Yes, that's who we currently have a contract with.
through June
That's-
30th. And
At some point, it'd be nice if they just came in and said hello.
He comes
He
all the
does.
time. We try
Um,
not to have him come.
Which actually brings us
Save
to our
money.
point. Another point of this is that the contract is up come June 30th of this year. So we will be putting
They will
out,
come in and make a presentation.
we will be putting out a bid for a new firm, May, June?
We're
Yeah.
gonna put out
Um,
the RFP.
Yeah,
at the
I'm
end
working on the RFP
this
now,
month.
so we hope to have it out mid-March
Okay, thank you.
with responses by the end of
You
April.
know, that's, I mean, it's just good business sense. Okay, so page 6 of the budget book, funds to update and replace central office equipment. Since we are going through the plan to revitalize or redo this board office, my proposal is to just take that line item out unless it's on a chair that somebody's falling out of. I would, it's under page 6,
Yeah.
administrative office equipment. It says update central office equipment and furniture. And there's no listing of what we'll be using it for.
It's to your point, if a office chair breaks, we have no other,
No line item.
no line on them anywhere within administration to handle those type of
Well,
purchases.
I'm looking at people. I want to keep people. And if we can, we got plenty of chairs in this room if we have to have a chair. So I'm just, pardon me, but I want to keep my people. So I know it's only $3,000, but it's $3,000 more to put towards people.
How come we don't have that in capital, like we have all the tables and chairs in schools?
So, years ago, the requirements as to whether it was equipment or a supply was a measly $500 threshold. Over the years, it has increased to now $5,000, which becomes equipment, which would then more appropriately be classified in the capital budget. This is just really some leftover language that probably when it was a $500 and you had to buy a $500 office chair, it was considered equipment because we would put an inventory tag on it. We don't have to do that anymore, but this could easily just be a supply. But as far as capital, you wouldn't necessarily use capital funds to buy one replacement office chair.
Okay.
You would do classroom sets or cafeteria tables.
That's why
sets
they're
at a
in that
time.
budget, not in this.
So this is if we have something that we need, basically,
This particular line.
to pay for.
Unless it's a printer.
It could be a printer.
Just bringing it up. Okay. Page 9, the consultants for the data-wise training. See where it was transferred from instruction? Do we really need to have consultants come back in since we've had data-wise for a while now? Everybody knows how to use it?
No, they don't.
Okay.
We are not proficient. We continue to work on it.
Okay. Okay.
And that would be a huge blow to our schools if we.
To the momentum.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
They
just
want
asking.
more.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just
Tell me about
asking.
that, which one does that pay
Page
for?
Okay.
Data-wise?
So the data-wise improvement process, which is a process that all of our schools use to basically disaggregate their data and focus on their greatest need. And so we've contracted now for the past few years, I would say, and the superintendent and I were just in 2 schools today, and they did their whole presentation. We're not at proficiency yet at all of our schools. So there's, and to the superintendent's point, we get a request really at this point in the year for additional support from our consultant. And we usually really use these funds up until December. So really from July 1 to December. So there's even more of a need that's out there. But right
They're
now,
teaching our teachers how to do PowerPoint.
So what they, no, they are supporting our schools with understanding how to look at their data, their student performance data, to improve student performance, right? So we look at our data, whether we're talking about MCAP or STARS, you've heard about our interventions, our regular district benchmarks. We start to triangulate our data to find out what our students' real issues are with regard to learning. And we call that a learner-centered problem. That learner-centered problem, whatever the deficit is that students have, is directly tied to some action that the teacher is taking or not taking, and we call that a problem of practice. We use both of those pieces of data to improve student performance and improve the way our teachers teach to address student needs. And so what this consultant does is she meets with us face to face. She meets with administrators, she meets with specialists, and then they go back and they meet with the rest of their leadership teams and their teachers, and they work the process that way. What they generally request is more face time with this consultant. We give them whatever dollars we have. We sort of parse it out to each school, and they can do virtual, time meetings. And they always ask for more time with the consultant. We don't have more time with the consultant, but we do the best that we can.
Okay.
So right now, it's sort of like a train the trainer, and then they go out and try to.
But we've been doing it
And
for
it's-
several years.
and it's-
so that's my question,
and-
why do we
and-
still
and
need it?
It's a process. It's not like I take a test, I got it, boom, I'm done. It is helping us to be more data wise, how to understand our data, use that data to impact student performance to the positive and impact teacher performance to the positive.
How much
problem
longer are we gonna
identifier.
have this contract? And how much longer?
However long it takes for us to become proficient in that. I wouldn't even begin to say.
We've done it for, what, 5 years now?
We're really just finishing up year 3.
Okay, my next increase, page 13, the teacher substitutes. Do we have a number of how much our substitutes have cost us this year? Is it gonna be even close to what it was in 2019?
I can get that information for you.
I apologize, I should have asked you yesterday, I apologize.
Yeah, I'd have to run some
Yeah.
reports to, based on the payroll and where
I
we
mean-
are, but
I can remember Bernie Sadusky saying, he can't believe how many substitutes we have. He walked into a lunch one time and he's like, these are all our substitutes? I'm like, yeah, this is how many substitutes we have. So just seeing the increase over all these years, it's a lot of money. So if you think that increase because of the rate is it's necessary.
and part of it is related to the rate for the substitute teacher rate going up as well, as part of that request.
Okay, so can just take a look at it.
But I can
again?
take a look at
All
that,
right,
sure.
Thank you, sir. I don't want to belabor anything, just stuff that stuck out to me. Page 18, under instruction, equipment funds to add and replace furniture and equipment in the schools. Do we have any, or is this just immediate stuff that pops up? Because we didn't have anything for it for this year, and now all of a sudden we have a $20,000 line item on here, so.
8 cafeteria tables.
So stuff is,
This is to
That's-
handle the
yeah,
onesies and
I just
twosies that we just don't have a budget for.
yeah, and that's really unheard of for a school district not to have an allocation for furniture.
Is it what we just heard in the capital budget last week, though? So
No, this is for items that just break down in the middle of the school year. Principal calls up to say the teacher's desk was just, destroyed, or, we have some in the warehouse, but we've gone through all of those, and really what we have left in the warehouse is not functional in a school.
Can we make it 10,000?
I would say this, anything you could start with
Okay.
to get it in there would be very beneficial, because I just had a request from our principal the other day to replace something important in a classroom, and I'm like, I don't have a line item to do it.
Okay.
I can't do it.
This
So-
also, just as a reminder, is an area that impacts our report cards. Because when we shared a little bit of information with you about the surveys, the climate surveys, that physical environment part has to do with, do things get fixed when they're broken? in your school. That was one of the lowest areas that we scored for that one.
Again, just stuff that stuck out at me.
Absolutely.
I apologize.
No.
Got it.
So we're taking 10 off for that one?
Well, let them, it's just my recommendations. This is
I'm good with that.
not in stone, just asking.
But we're not doing anything, Tim, if we don't say let's do it. They're gonna go with.
I'm only doing this because I want to save the people on here. And 2,000 here and 10,000 there, I want to,
Just saying, do we need to do that?
other charges, page 27, student personnel services, the mileage and travel. Can we just knock it back, please, to the 5,500?
Well, this is almost one I would consider a mandatory,
Okay,
because this is the mileage and the travel for our home hospital teachers that we are required to pay for. So it's not like they're going to a conference or anything like this. It's their travel between the schools.
I thought that was in a different spot.
For home hospital teachers?
Yeah, for the home hospital teachers. I thought that stipend was in.
Not stipend, the mileage reimbursement. So when they go from school A to school B, we pay for mileage for them to go between those two schools.
Okay, I misunderstood because I thought that was in another spot than not here. Okay, so the home hospital.
The mileage rate is 54.5 cents per mile.
Okay,
Went down a half a penny.
okay. Subs. Consultants. Will we have any kind of an idea, page 36, how much increase in our insurance on the buses will be? Do we have an idea on that yet?
Mabe was supposed to gather those. The last report, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, was there's a chance with the extra fund balance that they have in Mabe, it may stay flat.
Okay.
But I can follow up with
Okay.
Mr. McGones right now.
I mean, that's just a $20,000 increase if we don't need it. That would be lovely. It'd be great.
The thing of it is we paid 82 last
Yeah,
year,
so,
and we only
yes.
had 66 budgeted.
I
And I'm
see-
sorry, Ms. Harper, I was talking about for next year, not this past
Okay.
year.
Okay, but we're,
We're already behind the 8 ball on that one, yes.
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
leave it be. Thank you, okay. I saw that and I was like, it
Yeah.
makes sense, okay. Let that alone. Don't worry, Sid, I left the custodial supplies alone.
Thank you.
Meeting and conferences, operation of plant 41, page 41. Again, there's the insurance piece there, property may pull, I mean, I know it's only 4,000, but just take a look at it. The meetings and conferences, do we need that much money there? I see in 2019 what we spent, and there's nothing budgeted for this year. Is that a necessity? Just asking.
Which one is it?
They're
Which
about
meeting and
powers.
conferences is that?
I have a note on here about Power School training too, and I couldn't remember what that was.
No, so that operation and plan is not all Mr. Pinder, it's technology.
Okay,
And what this was for in 19 was the cost to send two people to Power School Edge training,
oh, two of the techs.
2 of the techs down to Power School University.
Not the techs, that would be specialists.
Especially,
Okay.
So, Mr. Chris Brown, who runs Power School, our student data system,
Okay,
that would be training for him that has to take place annually.
okay. Again, I'm just,
We also have one that was on 36, it says student transportation, meetings and conferences. I've done it. I don't know what that one was. Increase
That's
that.
where Ms. Kalvanovich they have a quarterly state transportation meeting with all the directors of transportation in the state. And she does attend that. It's usually a 2 to 3 day meeting.
it takes an extra
Is it that
$1,000?
much?
The actual this year was 36.
Sometimes it's in Western Maryland. They try to move it around based upon,
So we
You
could be
know.
under on that too.
so.
Thanks.
We could be under on that one too already.
Mhm.
Okay, okay.
But it was $1,000 increase.
and look at the year before
Because
that.
of what we paid already.
Yeah,
836.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
not traveling like nationally, it's just, it's a
Yeah,
local.
just-
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Page 42, the vehicle replacement wasn't, I'm just going to ask you that because was it in the capital budget we saw last week?
So, you want me to talk?
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Right.
that's yours.
So with the capital budget, yes, we're asking for, it's kind of like the furniture. We're asking for new vehicles to replace the old ones, but what happens when one just breaks down in the middle of the year and the capital has already been spent
Okay.
on replacing them?
This would allow us to lease one instead of purchase outright, perhaps.
And then, yeah, the line above it, I'm leaving it alone. Yes, Mr. Sid, I get it.
Thank you, President
Okay.
Harper.
And just by the way, we did get a compliment from one of our schools today about the custodians and that spray that they're using
Okay.
for flu and everything, that they don't have, they can just spray it on. So they were like, thank God for that, because we had kids sick all over.
Good, that's good to hear.
When is, and on page 45, when is the next time our contract is up with our trash company?
Another year,
That
year and a
last
half?
Should be about a year and a half, yes.
Yeah.
So why would our increase be $6,000? Are we already under on that?
We are under on it. When the bid
Okay.
came in, it was a little bit higher. And then, there are variations to that if they call in for an extra pickup because of
Yes.
something like that.
I'm well aware about trash.
But what? You didn't finish that. There are variations.
There's variations, so I stopped because Ms. Harper was shaking her head. So
Yeah.
if something happens to the school or maybe the community loads up a dumpster, we got to get it unloaded so we can throw our own trash in there. So we may have to call for
So an
something that's
extra
beyond
load could cost
the
you.
contract for them to come and dump our dumpster.
Or if you have things that are in the recycling can
Yeah.
that do not belong in
Right.
there, they will charge you.
Right.
And we do have cameras on all of our dumpsters, but it is still a chore to make sure the community is not using them.
Case in point, I'm right there at Marina. I had a gentleman bring his portable toilet over and put it in my dumpster.
Oh.
Not pleasant.
Hmm.
Extra cost. Okay, page 45. Oh, that's a security camera. Okay, that's where I was asking about the refuse. Okay. Page 46, I asked in an email about repairs to buildings. Are we under on that one already?
We're, at what we spent this year, we're right in the middle, 50%.
Okay.
And all of that is for items that just break down or a leak, a roof leak. That's not, the capital is for preventive.
Right,
These are reactive.
have to happen.
Yep.
Do we have to have a $40,000 increase on that line item?
I would strongly recommend
Now,
that.
if you
Okay.
look at the trend,
Asking. Maintenance of plant, page 47, an extra little bump on meetings, just asking.
Got a note here that it's a state-required meeting.
It's a state required meeting, okay. Okay,
But where's that? That's $2,500.
I know, it's nickel and diming
No,
it,
but
I'm just asking.
$2,500 is that's an expensive meeting.
They all are.
it's more than one meeting.
I know that.
Okay.
Just said there's a new meeting.
I have a note here from when we reviewed this back in October. We must have had a discussion. I have that it's a state-required meeting in that particular one. That's the only thing I wrote
I
on
would
my
say
notes.
probably MABE or ASBO.
I have
Oh, that's
ASBO
ASBO.
and
ASBO.
licenses is what I have.
ASBO and
Okay.
PUD.
Thank
So-
you, Dr. King.
So for what I just came up with, it was, actually, I had duplicated a couple, so maybe $200,000. It just asks about, just through this book, just to look at the insurance costs and the gas costs. The fuel increase that you had on there was $40,000. I mean, do we really estimate that it's gonna be that much?
Well, it's not based upon the fuel, it's based upon the consumption.
Okay,
It's not based upon the rate.
okay,
I do anticipate more
consumption being,
special needs students being transported.
that's true, because we didn't increase that line item.
And that's part of the issue is, yes, the increases in the areas that I would say are not huge. It's just, hey, can we at least get to level?
But it could be,
Oh, yeah, it could be extremely, you just never know how many, transportation needs we're gonna have to do.
correct.
And just to kind of reset a little bit, if you'll recall, last year, in our transportation category, we had to transfer from other categories almost $500,000. because we were
Right.
short that much in budget.
Okay.
That was primarily the special ed budget.
Some of it, yeah,
Buses going.
and related to the homeless transportation.
We just had a meeting yesterday where there's potential to have 2 more that go to schools that we do not
Go
already
to.
attend.
Oh, wow.
So that's 2 more runs.
It could be potentially, yes,
Just 2 more buses.
Which we don't have yet.
but we'll make it work somehow.
Anyone else have anything want to?
Page 7, wages and salaries, but I don't see payroll tax, workman's comp, and any benefit cost roll-up expense. It must be somewhere else.
What page, Mr. Anderson? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, it's 7.
Mid-level
Breakout
administration?
for salaries and wages.
And it'd be nice to, am I looking and I see 66 FTE? But, just pardon my ignorance, but what is the FTC? The
FTE.
Full-time equivalent.
Okay.
So you could have, in this particular case, you could have 2 half-time people, but that equals 1 FTE. So you have 2
I got you.
physical bodies.
All right, but the question still flows. I'm used to seeing by department or by school names, the salary, position, roll-up costs, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm used to seeing all those in one place. So I assume that somewhere in all of this are these costs.
Yeah, so by state law, we have to break out our things by state categories, sitting behind the commissioner's desk, and we've asked for transfers in the past. So what you're seeing here is just the salaries and wages, and there's a summary sheet, as page 7 is, to everything that's the next 4 or 5 pages behind it. All of the fixed costs, the workers' comp, FICA, Medicare, health insurance, is in the category fixed charges, which is back on page 50, I think. Back on page 49 is the summary for that. And then 50 through 52 break out
But
all of
are
those.
driven by increases in salary.
Yes,
So that's anticipated on page 49.
And then on
Yes.
page 50 and 51, it describes everything to you.
yes.
It has a
Is it
description.
bad management to take a look at the retirement people and their replacements at lower cost, so you get an advantage of salary?
We already built in almost $400,000 for that anticipated cost. So
Okay.
as we've talked to the board, just for we don't budget 100% of salaries. We take that 100% of salaries and reduce it by $400,000.
A surge of retirements. Dr. Kane breaks out the whip and people say, well, I'm retiring. We end up with a little money well, that's where we got the money for the transportation expense.
Well, it's called attrition, and yes, he makes accounting for that
Budget for that.
in the budget.
I'm pretty concerned about salary increases over the next 3 and 4 years, and these hidden costs that also roll up. I don't think a lot of people realize a dollar comes with a salary, comes with it a whole bunch of other expenses.
Correct. And that's, and the salary positions that are reflected on here include those fixed costs in there, so we don't have to play that guessing game. Yes, sir.
And shared with us before that for generally speaking, a position, you add 25% on top of that. And that's the
25%.
benefit, the extra costs.
Especially now
Taxes,
that we're
health
paying a
insurance.
portion of teachers' retirement,
Right.
which we
And then you
never had
also
to in
have
the
sick
past.
days, and then you have,
I mean, all of that.
yes, it's all,
On page 45 is the pest control for all the buildings. Seems
Yes.
pretty inexpensive.
Yes,
that's why we have
it
pests.
is for all the buildings.
Did I say that out loud?
I'm so sorry.
You're very limited on what you can
We'll have
do
it
inside a
erased
school
later.
building.
Is that up to bid every year?
No, we about every 4 years.
They do
Very, very
around the
tight
outside?
controls
Do they do around the
on
outside
who
too?
can do that.
I mean,
Oh,
I have
the
something outside
Maryland
now.
Department of Agriculture oversees that, and you're, like I just said, you're very limited to what you can do inside a building
Okay.
and outside of a building when students are present and not present, so.
Are we under on that already? Oh, and that
We
line item?
maintain that
Okay,
pretty consistently.
okay. It just seems, again, it seems like not a lot of money.
No.
For 14 buildings,
That's where I was coming
15
from.
buildings.
Whether you're getting what you're paying for.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we're getting what
Or
we're paying
what
for.
they say they're doing.
We're getting what we're paying for. Anyone else have any other items to add?
But generally speaking,
The
having
track?
first seen this tonight, I really can't make an intelligent comment except to ask questions of where things
No,
are.
well, that's why we're here. So on March 4th, the superintendent will give a presentation of the proposed budget that we will talk about that night and decide on and have it sent over to the county commissioners.
What we see, or what we have here, is an increase of how many millions of dollars?
We're asking for 3.5 over MOE.
All of this is an increase of $5 million.
Mhm. 5.6.
So if I can reset it a little bit, Mr. Anderson, so the 5-year summary that we provided today and we've talked about, keep in mind that that was done back in October before we had updated salaries and things like that. So you're not going to see any changes to salary costs. This was our first blush is what we called it back in October. So we've transferred all of that to basically this one pager. And now this is what we're asking for. So this $5 million is all represented here. It does encompass here, but I would use this as your go-to sheet, and then we can always come back and get you some more detail if you need be. But there's some things, because this was done in October, that are not shown here.
Is $3.5 million over MOE, which
Yes, sir.
is sort of stuck in the heads of county commissioners, stuck in mine, unless there's some extra money. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is that Kerwin is going to say, well, you're going to get it anyway, and we'll just wait until that happens.
Well, we're not getting it in these areas.
And it'll come with restrictions.
But these areas will roll up when those areas start
Oh.
coming.
Absolutely, we all know that. That's why it's a very daunting task and a little, a little,
We can only
Scary.
do what it takes to run the school system. If someone else decides that they're not going to pay for it, they don't want to raise taxes, then we have to figure out what we're not going to be doing.
correct.
I think we can have a strategy by tearing apart the capital budget.
The capital budget has nothing to do with the
It's not
operating budget.
I know that. I'm saying it doesn't, but it has something to do with the county's cash flow. You loan money from various sources and have bonds, and then the bonds get paid back over time at a rate of interest. The cost of the county is the interest cost, and cash flow wise, it has something to do with paying the bond back. They aren't related, nor is the sheriff's money the county pays for school safety. Well, I dare somebody to take that away. So I'm just looking at the best way.
What are you thinking of doing though with the, lowering the capital request and thinking that then we can get more
No,
operating?
it's a quid pro quo. It's unrelated. But it's something that if we can't cut this with any great effort, like the school buses, buying 2 extra school buses to move 2 kids around, I'm absolutely opposed to that. The county ride has vans that carry crippled old people around, and they cost half as much as one of these buses. Maybe it's unrelated.
Rules are different.
Yeah.
You're
Rules are different.
required under
Different.
Comar.
Comar for transporting.
Well, the
Mr.
Comar should be the same for the people being.
No, sir, it is not. Can you speak to that, Mr. Pinder?
Yes, for transporting students, it's a lot more restricted through Comar and the regulations that we
I
can.
want to see the Comar regulations. I
Sure.
want to read them myself.
It's fine.
And I don't doubt you,
I don't have a problem with
but
it.
I want to
But
be
what you
able
gotta
to say
remember-
with intelligence,
Right,
I
right.
read it.
What you got to remember also, sir, is that when we're talking about transporting 2 students, county ride's not going to take them to Baltimore.
I'm talking to you
These-
about buying their equipment.
Yes,
which costs half as much as a school bus.
Mr. Smith has brought that up repeatedly over the last 4 meetings, how we should have a van rather than a bus. Wycomico County is currently trying that measure and testing the water, so to speak. So if they can get away with it, maybe we'll try it. But for the most part, right now, we have to have a full bus.
Well, I saw, as everyone probably will remember, we transferred $250,000 or it's $150,000. And I asked the question, why is that needed? Well, because unexpectedly, 2 children had to be taken to Delaware,
Yes.
but in separate buses or something of the sort.
To 2 different schools.
So, thank God we don't have to deal with the McCardle School.
Well,
You'll have 21 kids.
we have, how many schools do we transport to now? 7?
7 or 8.
8?
And then you also got to factor in there the homeless students that were required by law to transport.
I don't think everybody understands, welcome to reality, Mark. Just want to be sure that I can say, hey, look, we were up there, we had taxpayers' concerns. Down here, we have the law and education of children. So we have to be in a position to make that very clear.
There's an old adage, sir, I stand where I sit. So guess where you are?
You stand where you sit. Well, I think I mentioned something
Yeah.
along those lines
Yes,
to Dr. Kane.
yes.
It's a shift. It's a shift in thinking.
It is. It is
Yeah,
a shift.
and understanding.
Yes.
Understanding. It's like being a juggler with 2 hands and 10 balls up in the air, and then somebody throws another one and says, catch.
There you
Welcome
go.
to a teacher's life.
Except they throw them 2 at a time.
Yes.
I'm going to get to that. Because I'll probably catch it with my teeth. And another one will come. And I have to,
Yeah, you're right.
anyway,
Yes.
I don't want to waste
No, no,
any
no,
more
no.
time
It-
with this.
This, it all needs to be described to you, and I apologize, I mean, it's
No,
it's
you don't-
daunting. And it's not something that we're taking lightly in the extreme. I mean, pardon our jocularity, we're just one too many hits to the head here. Anyone else have any other questions, comments, anything you'd like to add? Anything from the executive team?
So, just so for Mr. Anderson, we actually did shave $1 million off of these requests. And we got it down as far as we could. And we appreciate you taking a really close look, because that's what we asked, and that's what we know has to happen. And in the conversation that we just had, we still probably found $3,000, right? Which, when we look at reducing, I think it might have been furniture or something, like Ms. Bass had to buy her own chair, when she came, and that kind of stuff. That shouldn't happen
No.
in a school district.
No.
When we need cafeteria tables, we should be able to get cafeteria tables.
Agreed.
The thought of not having an allocation for furniture when we have almost 8,000 children and almost 1,000 adults moving in and out of buildings every day is just abominable. So we have to account for that. So that was our first blush at it. Unless there's anything else that you feel like we need to cut from this, we can put a thumbtack on this for just a moment, move us along to the Capitol. If there was any further conversation that we needed to have based on last week, where we left off.
Harper, what your plan was just to look at things, but not
That's all
Oh, no, we're gonna have to make some decisions.
I just wanted to bring it to
Is the decision
attention.
right now, or is it after we go forward, come back with how much, when we have to start cutting?
I
Is that
think
what-
I just merely wanted to draw attention to some of the increases, because I would love to save some of the people on this wish list. I would love to bring more people in. 1,000 here, 1,000 there. When I got in business, I always tell people I'll take care of the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. So when I nickel and dime things to death, it's because I'm trying to save a person down the road.
I just
So
want to know what your goal was.
that was my goal, is just to
Just
draw
to make it
attention to it
aware.
and to learn about the
We'll look at them.
insurance, look at the fuel costs, maybe look at the projections a little bit better. I want to save the people in our system. So,
All the people have to be saved because it's the law. And what I'm afraid of is that the savings is gonna come out of the folks that are needed, but it's not under the law.
Well, that's with anything. So-
Yes.
Okay, so the capital budget, does anyone have any questions, any comments about the capital budget? And thank you very much for that last week, gentlemen. Do you have anything that you're going to take out or
No, I
or
did have,
change?
last week, I think Captain Kelly had asked about over the years. And I went back to basically, and I can send this to
Here,
you,
this book.
email.
Tabs aren't labeled.
Going back to 2007.
Mrs. Morissette, will you
So-
see if he has?
Based upon school construction or other items, you don't have this because I just put this together today. Based upon school construction and other items, it would range, say, in 2000, it's about 6 million. 2008, it was up to 11 million. And then you go, 2010 was 30 million. So obviously, you know, we were building a school at that year. And then the next year, it dropped down to 145,000. So, you know,
Historically.
and I'll send you this, but it's like a roller coaster, and you know, Mr. Anderson can probably testify to this. It's basically what, you know, the county has available for us to use at that particular time for capital. So-
If you would email it to everyone,
Yep.
that would be great, and we will all have it.
Thank you, Sam.
And it also has what we were, the
Okay.
projects we were awarded.
That just has some of my notes in it, Mr. Anderson,
Of last
just a
week.
copy for you to look at right now. You received that last
Start with
week.
chillers. Start with the chillers.
What about it?
Well, $1 million, $900,000 in chillers. What's wrong with the ones that are in there now? Is there a date that they, what they'll ask for is there a date that they were built? What, how long have they been working? What's the problem? What's the cost of the maintenance to keep them going, as opposed to doing this? The answer is, well, the maintenance costs money on the operating side. So somebody has to do the math.
We do have that.
Do we have a lit?
Yeah, they have
Explain
it.
how we.
We did a whole building facility assessment
Right.
and have all of that data. I mean, just thousands of pages of, here's when it was installed, here's the cost associated with it, here's the life expectancy. I mean, we were probably the third county in the state to do that, to get a hold of our capital request of anticipating the
County
future.
budget, just for operating, is 1,000 pages. So, you know, pages should contain what we want to read.
You're more than welcome to view it all you want.
Got that. We got that. And then
Yes,
he's laid it
whole
out
list for
year
it.
Catching
for.
up.
Yeah, no, yes.
We have that. That's a good question. And we have it year for year projections, so that we have a logical request for capital each year based on the assessment that we had done. The county funded that, maybe when you were in there, it was like 500,000, right? For a
And
full assessment.
I was there for
And-
that and certain cost overruns and other sort
but
of things. I also was there after they used bonded indebtedness for laptops and textbooks. But there was reason for that, and we all know what it is, to get it out of operating. It's not fiscally smart, but under the current pressures, it has to be done. And I know some folks were arguing about it on the county commissioners, about that kind of thing, and why are we doing that? And people who did it for a reason were protesting that it shouldn't have ever been done, but now it can never stop.
And it's very beneficial to our students and the teachers.
But that is why it was done in the first place.
Right.
And that is why
But
we have to
now-
keep it going.
It's a problem. If somebody brings it up, you got an operating budget that just got, you know, half of, what, $2 million worth of costs? No, that can't happen.
Anything else?
So that's all that we have in terms of, you know, making sure that you have everything. I know that we have a couple of items that,
We'll look at.
Okay,
in terms of insurances.
right. Other than that, I mean, it's black and white.
Okay.
Good?
I know staff went through and we ended up carving about $1 million out of operating. What staff carved out of this?
There's no staff in the Capitol.
And I'm talking about the people who produced this.
Oh.
Somebody produced the operating, and we see $1 million was removed because it skinnied it up.
So we,
What about this?
Well, that's why we're talking about it right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
and so we had, you know, I use this term loosely, a little bit more flexibility with cutting certain things out of operating. Last year, we were cut 2 million out of capital, and those needs continue to exist, so it's much more difficult. We have presented our best thinking in terms of that capital budget, that proposed
And as you
capital
know,
budget.
the county commissioners have a line item veto on the capital budget. They get to pick and choose what they will
Yeah,
fund.
but they could pick and choose, and they might pick this, and it's necessary in that, which could have waited a year.
Well, at least they know what our needs are. That's the only reason why we present it
I
all
like
to them.
I like them to get it right.
Well, they are getting it right. They're getting every bit of the needs that the system has. I mean, we don't want to lie to them. This is what the needs, these are what the needs are, and then they get to pick and choose on there.
Measuring the needs by these numbers. Somebody has to be prepared if somebody raises a question.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we have
Yeah.
the other presentation that I gave has it line by line by line by line.
Yes.
That is just the
That's just an overall,
overview of it.
there is a line item presentation that he has to give to the county commissioners,
I don't see
yes.
that.
I handed it to you
Yeah.
last week.
The one you did last week, so you can look that up online on the,
I can get you another copy.
watch that. Yeah,
See if
watch
he
that.
has
It's
in
very,
the book.
very useful.
And I
This is
do
more
need to
so-
bring one other thing up. So, you know, we really have to understand the board's desire to fund a position for youth apprenticeships. Right, so recall that
Yes.
conversation.
This
Yes.
workforce item?
Correct.
And I think you'll find the commissioners very supportive of that.
Yes,
Yes.
they let us know that in a meeting.
I thought you said they told us.
They did. They highly recommend us having it.
Make sure that that's an enhancement. That's in the enhancement side, not in the MOE side.
It is in the MOE side. It can't be, it's on the MOE side. Same thing with the health coordinator. We have to have that. I mean, that's now been put on our budget.
You missed, what I'm saying is, you put it outside the MOE, and then you say, when they say you gotta cut it back, so no, we gotta keep it because. it's
We
required.
tried that.
Oh, all right.
I think I
Yeah, I
did.
was one of the only ones that got faked out.
I think I presented it in that fashion.
Well, I
And,
think, you know,
and I think Jim Rand looked at me and said, good try.
To be honest, you know, there's a lot of other important things as far as the school board goes we'd like to have, besides a
Absolutely.
workforce
So-
coordinator.
Which is why I'm bringing it up. I know the conversation that was had, and we've
Yes.
included it here,
Yes,
but I'm bringing it up so that it is your decision to make.
yes.
Um,
And there's $100,000.
Which I don't know how we came up with that amount of money.
We'll tweak this by the March 4th presentation.
But
At the
even,
ti-
even at a $70,000 salary, you're still gonna have $25,000 in benefits
That
and
was-
taxes.
that was
It
the
was
reason
comparable
that we
to
added
the
it
social
as 100.
studies / workforce coordinator
Yes.
position we had in the original request this year.
But it's not going to be involved with social studies.
No, this
No.
would be for youth apprenticeship internships.
So,
Correct.
Honestly, I mean, if I'm looking at this and we have to include the commissioner's request for the workforce coordinator, I would be inclined to getting rid of, I have to delete the teacher leadership development, the curriculum instruction repair, and the substitute stipend. I mean,
Or-
to pay for this. I mean,
or-
if I'm gonna look at that,
Because those, you know, we've been down that road and we know I am not, I don't get a vote, but I can make a strong recommendation.
for every one of them.
Right, that
Exactly.
we keep what we have asked there, and if this position, this staffing workforce coordinator bears that much weight, that we ask specifically for funding for that position.
That's what I was
Yeah,
getting at.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh,
I agree.
we know. We brought that up.
Not to replace anything.
Right, because
So,
this is bare bones
Right.
here.
Right.
So
Um,
as for our total up here, and then add 100,000.
The 100,000 is
in
there.
it. is in it.
It's already there.
What we're saying is,
You don't want it.
as Mr. Anderson says, that would be an enhancement.
That's right.
Pull it out
A
of
required
MOE
enhancement by
and
the
then
county
ask for an
commissioners
enhancement.
over and above the MO.
This is just strategy.
I'm a
If it's
little
that
confused
important to
on,
them, no, if it's that important to them,
It is not really a strategy, it's a
Yeah, it is.
way to do this because we don't want to lose what we want. And I think what we want is a higher priority than that position. And we would have probably
Agree with that.
cut that out, you know?
All they have
As
to do
great as it
listen
is,
to
but
us
it is
here on
fully an
TV next week,
enhancement.
And our
So,
strategy now becomes a public statement.
it is a public statement. That,
that position is not
And when-
something we would have wanted to
No.
fund right now.
Right.
And the spots that we had in, or the group here had in, that we went down that road one time, we need to not use that language, and we wouldn't. But by not filling those spots, what difficulties have we then encountered as a result of not doing it?
So it's not a spot that we had anyway, right? So this is
Correct.
brand new. And because our work in this area is increasing and because our business community is very, very, as you well know, very engaged with, getting our students there, we have to have a person dedicated to that work. Because the person that we have for that right now also has other responsibilities and cannot dedicate himself fully to that.
Very aware of
Yeah.
the value of the vocational side of education,
yes.
and not only for trades, but for engineering.
Well, all
All of that
aspects.
is career tech,
Of-
yeah.
Our CTE is expanding by leaps and bounds so much, I mean, how many meetings have we had over the last
Many.
just the last 6 months. So, and the county commissioners, the Chamber of Commerce, our own people here at the Board of Ed, we have really expanded our
Commissioners have tool bags.
view of it. And yes, so the county commissioners, they know the value.
Absolutely.
So the Board of Education actually has a 27 to 30% rate of return on the community. Because all these students, they graduate here, they go somewhere else, then they come back and they become
and they pay taxes here.
productive
Right.
citizens of Queen Anne's County. So there's anywhere from a 27 to 30% rate of return. That was done by Beacon back in what,
From
2016, 17?
So
So
we're not gonna go through the capital budget allocations
We did last week, but I mean, you're welcome, since you didn't have a chance.
over there.
Yes, please, if you have something else.
Well, looking at the first page, $2.7 million, questions are gonna come about the cost of repair, and I know how it goes when our capital budget people in the county, DPW comes forward, and they say the age of the vehicle, they give the amount of maintenance for the vehicle, and it's almost like an automatic. So,
We have that, he has
Do the
that
same thing.
all
yeah,
written down.
but it needs to be prepared to say that.
He was, he does, he has
I
all that.
share all that with Mr. Todd also.
Band uniforms will probably come into some consideration, but the musical aspects of our school system are absolutely superb,
Yes.
and that is another thing we should continue to do.
This is last year's though, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, this capital here that you're reading, we bought those last year. These,
So there we are.
just so you know.
Does
He-
he
that
have-
was part of his brief.
Does he have
that's
this
all.
one I just gave him? Okay.
It says,
Yeah, but,
This is the PowerPoint. You have
I'm sorry,
this.
yeah. That was his PowerPoint where he showed last year,
yeah.
and
Okay.
then he moved into, you'll see, it'll be, there
We're
it
showing
is.
comparisons of the
That's
previous
20.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just showing comparisons of what we have paid in the past and what we have received, and then he goes into what was not done.
Now, how long was the roof on the school? Well, probably since it was built.
Yes, right. And then now it needs to be repaired.
Well, yeah,
And then you also have increased insurance costs if you don't replace the roof every so many years. Right.
Mold, all kinds of things
Exactly.
that you don't want.
And we do meet with Mr. Mon and Mr. Seaman, commissioners, with specific regard to capital requests early in the
You're
year.
always saying how the
Mhm.
brains work up there.
The third
But you know,
page,
you've been.
Yeah.
page 13 there, tells you what was not funded
Yes.
last year that we asked for. And then the next page is the projects that were completed, and then the next page starts our capital request. So that's probably where you wanna, those are things we asked for and that were not done. Of course, they're still on the list.
Steve Wilson is a debt, he doesn't like debt. And we had ourselves a difference of opinion on the courthouse and the sewer system.
Wow.
But that's not this.
They have been
You do the
Somewhat-
page 15, you'll see the actual
generous.
capital
Yeah, the
request.
county commissioners, I think, have been very generous with our capital requests.
yes. So
Last year was one of the first years we had so much taken away.
Yeah.
Usually,
in years past, they've
The other thing is they got
No-brainer.
a number of matches from these.
yes. Can I? Yeah, I just have notes on there. I'll get you another copy. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Dr. Kane, anything else you want to add?
So I just want to recap to make sure we're all on the same page here. So we're going to get you a couple of those items with regard to costs for insurances and whatnot.
Okay.
Other than that, unless there are changes, my presentation, my request is going to be reflective of this document.
Okay. Have you received anything from Mr. Smith? I haven't. Okay.
As far as questions or
Yes,
concerns, no
I
ma'am.
didn't see any on the list.
Yes,
Okay.
no.
And, through the email, again, if you have any questions, please send it, and then it will all be attached to that Google document where we have all the information. I need to make sure that you can access it.
Should have gotten the link today, this
Okay.
morning, in your
There's a
email.
whole link, there's an email that has a Google document with all the questions we've asked in the past and has all the information to it, except for the few things that you're going to get to us.
Person
Yeah.
right here.
Yes.
you know, the
Okay.
easiest way
Or
to get to,
G2.
easiest way to get to that is when Mrs. Wright sends us the weekly report. One of the links at the bottom is budget questions.
Yes.
You don't have to search for it.
Yeah.
I use that, but
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
definitely.
There's
It's a
definitely a
lot.
learning curve.
Yeah, it's a lot. Just figuring out where everything is and how to read it.
And going through the mounds of numbers and papers and,
The biggest employer in Queen Anne's County.
we are the biggest employer in Queen Anne's County, thank
It's a $100
God.
million budget.
Yes.
Sorry.
Anyone else have anything to add? Questions, comments?
Good.
I'm not trying to rush you.
No,
Good?
absolutely.
Amen. So, hearing nothing, I call for a motion to, please.
on the future events.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
do
for
that.
reminding me. Future meetings and events. March 4th is our school board meeting, and Dr. Kane will be presenting superintendent's proposed budget. March 18th, school board work session. April 1st, school board meeting. April 15th, another school board work session. May 6th, school board meeting. The county commissioners are having their budget hearings, actually a week later than normal. May 4th at Bayside Elementary School at 7 o'clock. May 5th at the Liberty Building in Centerville at 7 o'clock. May 6th, Sothersville Middle School at 7 o'clock. I ask you all to please attend if you have any questions or comments for the county commissioners. We know that we do. May 6th being our regular board meeting. We cannot change that unless we do it right now.
Change it.
These are all Wednesdays,
Yes, they are. They are all Wednesdays.
commissioner meeting.
And all of our sessions are our regular board meetings, 4:30. We go into closed session. Our work sessions are at 5. I don't know about changing the date on May 6th, Dr. Kane.
So let's see, what else do we have?
I mean, it's our regular scheduled meeting. I can't,
We can if
We
do
can
it
change
now.
it, right? I'm just
Sure.
looking for,
We used to do it in the summers.
so we could look at the 13th.
Or,
I hope that the first board meeting in April, on April Fool's Day, is not indicative of how we end up.
I think it's really by chance, but I'll put on a hat if you want me to.
My grandson's birthday, so don't
Oh,
worry about
gosh.
he's got to live with that his whole life.
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So, I mean, we certainly would be given plenty of notice. We can change it. Because we definitely need to be at the,
County Commissioners meeting.
correct, at the budget hearing.
I would need a majority vote to move a meeting to May 13th.
Sure.
So moved.
Sure.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the motion? I call for a vote on the motion to move the May 6th meeting of 2020 to Wednesday, May 13th of 2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion, all opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. We will be having our May meeting on Wednesday, May 13th. I need to tell Mr. Smith. So we will have that meeting starting at 4:30, going into closed session, and the regular meeting starting at 6 o'clock.
Correct.
Mr. Plisky, we will still have the policy meeting on that day,
On the
On-
6th?
on the 6th,
Correct, that's currently scheduled for
for
that
2 to
time.
4. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And then the rest of the meetings for the year are found on our website.
You know, you have a meeting on the 18th, following week of work session.
We have a meeting on May 18th,
That's the,
no, May
May
20th.
20th, yeah.
Yes, May 20th.
Just our normal work session.
That's a normal work session at
Yes.
5 o'clock.
Are you okay with that?
Yes,
Right
we'll
after
we'll have to keep that.
Okay.
So May 6th, we will be at the county commissioners meeting.
Mhm.
Let me put this county commissioner. Sothersville Middle School. May 13th, board meeting, and then May 20th, a work session at 5 o'clock. It catches everybody up to speed?
Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. That's a good, I mean, we're gonna have to be there at Sothersville. Can't miss that. Which that puts us a week behind on, or 2 weeks behind on getting their budget back. Because normally it's like the second or third week of April, so now they're putting it the first week of May. That puts them deciding it
Pretty tight.
very tight.
They got to approve it. It's got to sit, then it has to get printed, and the letter goes out.
So that could be June before that gets done, before they,
It's our problem.
it is all of our problem because we have to have our budget
Reconciled by June
rectified by
30th.
July 1st.
We'll know that.
Yeah.
Just once they've got it all together, they've got a mechanism to send the finished product out to the people.
Well, if they send the finished product out
How soon after they approve do they send it out?
within the week,
Soon after the hearings.
so by May 15th, it'll be out. So they'll have a meeting by May 26th.
They're gonna have to approve something before May 26th, because the budget starts on July 1st.
Exactly.
People have to be notified. I
Correct.
can't imagine, whatever the finished product is, it can't be in the mail by the first day of June. Otherwise, they're gonna have a mess.
Because-
And there's a law.
I guess, but normally, the county commissioners' town hall meetings are always like April 20th or April 27th.
Right.
Well, they've pushed it back feasibly
I don't know
2
why
weeks.
Who knows why they pushed it back?
I don't know.
So you're gonna have a lot of meetings for sure.
Well, and that's, we may have to have a work session on June 10th. We have one scheduled for June 17th. We may have to have it June 10th, just in case. We have it set as tentative on June 10th? Okay, so we do have
What if
it.
they reject things that they can't reject, like something that is required by law, and gotta rework things?
So
We do.
we just, we figured out, so
Okay.
we use that time to reconcile. based
So
on
we'll
what we
have
get.
probably 2 work sessions in June, because we have to rectify it by July 1st.
So once we know what we're gonna get, then we create some scenarios and we present them to you, and you decide if you like any of them or have a different variation on it.
Well, a lot of this capital budget has to have a state. This thing can't be left and we miss a deadline, so we can't get the money, so
Right.
Yeah, they're aware. They're aware.
I'm sure they are. Well, they want to be aware.
It's the operating budget is always the toughest. Capital, they'll just tell us we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like,
The end of
pass
it.
on.
That's the end of it. Yeah, that one's easy.
Right.
That's the easy one.
Right, that's it.
Nope, nope, nope. Okay. And we move on. But the operating is definitely, you know, definitely a challenge,
Well,
yes.
For the first time, I was in Jackie's office, and I said, what is this big thing here? And she said, that's the heat and the cooling. Then I realized this building's so old, it doesn't have air
Yes.
conditioning to every room.
Yes. That's why there's a feasibility study going on, right, soon for this building?
It's occurring,
To see whether to renovating this building or building a new one is how feasible it is. Because there's a lot of issues.
These are things that you would think you'd know, but it makes sense when you look at the age of the building. What did they do 30 years
1940?
ago?
This building's 1940?
Part of it was 1900.
1900.
It's been added on to about 3 different times
Like
since.
my elementary school didn't have anything.
Yeah.
They just opened the windows.
And that's what they did.
Couldn't get away with that.
I didn't say it,
I'm the
Cal.
oldest here, but I wasn't alive.
Open the window,
Open a window.
turn on the air conditioning.
Okay. Good.
We are good.
Do I have a motion to close our work session?
So,
Motion is second. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, I call for the vote on the motion to close our work session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in March.